Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man Channel. Trust your vibe, energy never lies, people do. Let that sink in for a second, because once your intuition starts hitting bullseyes, people don't clap, they panic. Suddenly your calm silence feels threatening, your gut reactions too accurate, your one-word replies somehow louder than their entire rehearsed monologue. That's when the weird games begin, subtle tests, fake stories, awkward baiting. And why? Because they saw it, they felt it. Your intuition isn't some lucky guess, it's a freaking radar, and it's ruining their ability to fake it. Here's a fun fact. Studies show your subconscious can process over 11 million pieces of information per second. So when you say something's off, it's not just a hunch. It's your internal supercomputer waving a red flag while everyone else is still playing Candy Crush. So now people are freaking, testing you, watching your every move like you're some kind of emotional lie detector in human form. And the more accurate you are, the more desperate they get to break the signal. Welcome to the world of the Sigma male, where your intuition isn't just sharp, it's surgical. And now everyone's losing their minds over it. Let's talk about what's really going on behind those nervous laughs and fake smiles, because trust me, the freak out is real. Number one, they're obsessed with proving you wrong because they already know you're right. They're obsessed with proving you wrong because deep down they already know you're right. That's the twisted irony of it all. The moment your intuition started calling things out with scary precision, they stopped seeing you as just another guy and started seeing you as a threat to their entire performance. You're not throwing wild guesses, you're landing silent truths. And that unsettles people who rely on lies, half-truths, or fake personalities to get ahead. They can't stand how your instincts cut through their polished nonsense. So they try to poke holes in your accuracy. They start setting traps, telling you half the story just to see if you'll guess the rest. They test you with questions they already know the answers to, just to gauge how sharp your radar really is. It's not curiosity, it's damage control. They need to believe you're wrong about something, because if you're not, then all those things you haven't said out loud might also be true. And here's the kicker. Even when you are right, they'll argue just to save face. Not because they believe what they're saying, but because admitting you nailed it would be like handing you the keys to their whole game. They'll twist the conversation, distract with drama, even play the victim, anything to keep you from digging deeper. They're not debating the point, they're defending their ego. What really drives them crazy is that you don't gloat. You don't shout about how right you were, you just observe. You let the truth reveal itself, and that silent confidence eats them alive. Because your accuracy isn't just about facts, it's about vibes. You sense hidden motives, weird shifts in energy, micro-reactions they thought no one noticed. That kind of intuition doesn't need proof, it just knows. And that's terrifying to people who have everything to hide. So they keep testing you, not because they doubt your ability, but because your existence is proof that they can't fake it forever. Every time you're right, their whole illusion gets a crack. And one more crack might just shatter everything they've carefully built. That's why they're obsessed, not with your intuition, but with trying and failing to outrun it. Number two, they keep checking if your intuition has limits, because it threatens their illusion of privacy. They keep checking if your intuition has limits, because it threatens their illusion of privacy. You're not snooping, asking questions, or digging through their lives, yet somehow you know things you shouldn't. And that freaks them out more than anything. You walk into a room and they feel exposed, like their secrets aren't locked up tight anymore, just hovering in the air waiting for you to notice. It's not that you're trying to invade anyone's space. It's just that your instincts naturally pierce through the nonsense most people hide behind. That's why they keep poking at you, throwing distractions and changing their stories mid-conversation. They're not just testing you out of curiosity. They're trying to figure out where the edge of your perception ends. They need to believe there's a part of themselves that's still hidden from you, because if there isn't, then their sense of control is completely gone. People want to believe they can manage how they're seen. But when you come along and without effort start noticing patterns they didn't even realize they were giving off, it shakes their confidence in that illusion. Some try to outsmart you with fake vulnerability. Others pretend to be harder to read than they actually are. They'll mix truth with lies like a cocktail and watch your face to see if you'll call it out. They're not trying to connect with you, they're trying to reclaim a sense of safety. Because to them, your presence means their emotional walls aren't working. And for people who are used to being unreadable, that's terrifying. The more accurate you are, the more they feel like they're living in a glass house, unsure if you've already seen the cracks or if you're still scanning the structure. They throw chaos at you, hoping to blur your focus. They joke, they deflect, they push back, not because you're wrong, but because being seen that clearly is exhausting. They want to breathe again, but they can't. Not until they convince themselves that you missed something. And when you don't, that's when the panic sets in. Because now they know you're not guessing, you're watching, quietly, precisely, and nothing stays hidden for long. Number 3. You make strategic people feel basic. You make strategic people feel basic, and that's a special kind of insult they weren't prepared for. These are the people who pride themselves on outsmarting everyone, always calculating, always manipulating, always playing some invisible chess game in their head. They thought they were 5 moves ahead, untouchable, but then you walked in, not loud, not flashy, not even trying to compete, and somehow you already knew what game they were playing. That's what messes them up. You weren't reacting to their moves, you were already aware of the reason behind them. They were planning the performance, and you were reading the script like it leaked early. You didn't just see the game, you saw through the player, and that's the kind of thing that sends their ego into emergency mode. You're not playing their game because you don't need to. You're not trying to win over the crowd, outwit the opponent, or pull strings behind the scenes. You're just existing in a completely different frequency where you spot intentions, timing, emotional energy, and hidden motives like they're color-coded. And once they realize you're operating on that level, their strategy feels childish, forced, predictable. That's when the scramble begins. They start over-explaining themselves. They push harder, try to reframe things, overcompensate with complexity. They want to remind you they're still the puppet master, but it's too late. You've already sensed the energy shift, already spotted the bluff, already called it internally before they open their mouth. They hate that you don't need to flex your intelligence or announce how perceptive you are. You just see what you see, say very little, and let their panic fill in the rest. That's what turns the game on them. You didn't beat them at their own game. You exposed that the game wasn't that clever to begin with. And that realization hits like a brick, because it means all that effort, all that planning, all that strategic posturing didn't impress you. It just looked desperate. And now they're not 5 steps ahead. They're just trying to catch up to someone who was never even running. Number 4, they fear you'll reveal them, not publicly but energetically. They fear you'll reveal them, not with receipts or a loud confrontation, but with something way more unnerving, your energy. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to call anyone out. Your knowing alone, that quiet awareness you carry, starts doing the work for you. People feel something shift when you're around. Suddenly someone who used to dominate the room feels off. A little performative, a little too loud, a little too polished. And it's not because you said anything, it's because you didn't have to. That's what makes it so terrifying for them. When your intuition locks onto someone's truth, your presence alone becomes unsettling. People start looking at them differently, even if they can't explain why. There's this unspoken energy that moves through the room, like a secret everyone subconsciously picked up on, but no one remembers actually hearing. It's not gossip, it's not slander, it's just resonance. And it sticks. Those who operate through deception, image crafting, or emotional manipulation, they're the ones who feel the burn the most. They sense the subtle drop in influence, the sudden doubt in people's eyes, the weird silence that follows their stories. They don't know how it happened, but they know it started when you walked in. That's when the shift began. That's when their control over the narrative started slipping. It drives them mad because they can't fight it. You didn't accuse them of anything, you didn't argue, you didn't even hint at it. But your energy changed the temperature of the room. And now they're scrambling to explain a tension no one's talking about out loud. They're afraid because your intuition makes people feel things they weren't ready to feel. And no one wants to be around someone who silently confirms their worst fear, that the mask isn't working. So they avoid eye contact. They laugh too loud. They start over-explaining themselves to people who didn't even ask. And all the while, you're just watching. Calm, quiet, not giving anything away, but deep down they know you saw something, you know something. And the terrifying part is everyone else might now without even knowing how. Number 5. You turned intuition into intimidation. You turned intuition into intimidation without even trying. No raised voice, no dramatic call-outs, no playing psychic, just a steady, unnerving pattern of being right again and again. And that kind of consistency doesn't go unnoticed. At first, they thought it was luck, then a fluke. But now, they hesitate before speaking around you. They second-guess what they say, how they act, what they share, because your track record has become a quiet warning. Be careful what you reveal. He'll catch it even if you don't realize you gave it away. That's what unsettles people the most. It's not that you threaten them, it's that you see through them with zero effort. You don't chase validation or force your insights down anyone's throat. You simply observe, connect the dots in silence, and let time prove you right. And when it does, repeatedly, it starts to mess with people. They feel watched, but not in a paranoid way. More like their energy is being scanned without their permission. And they're not wrong. Your presence has become like a mirror people didn't ask for. It reflects their contradictions, their hidden agendas, their slip-ups, and you don't even have to say a word. Just standing there, listening, nodding, not reacting, that alone is enough to make people spiral. They start explaining things no one questioned. They start fidgeting, talking too fast, avoiding you altogether. Because deep down, they don't want to find out what you already picked up on. And here's the kicker. The more calm you are, the more tense they get. Because your quiet doesn't feel empty, it feels aware. It feels like someone just saw a layer of them they've been hiding from everyone else, including themselves, and now they can't unfeel it. That's not something you control, that's something you are. So no, you're not intimidating in the traditional sense. You're not aggressive, arrogant, or power-hungry. You're just accurate, repeatedly, quietly, consistently. And that makes you the kind of person who doesn't need to say, "Don't mess with me." People feel it before they ever get the chance. Number 6, you're the human version of read the fine print. You're the human version of read the fine print. The part people skim over at first because they think they already know what they're dealing with. You don't come off loud, flashy, or demanding attention. You're calm, measured, observant, so they assume you're harmless. And that's their first mistake. Because what they didn't realize is that your energy is the warning label, the silent red flag. The clause they should have paid attention to before they made their move. They ignore the vibe at first. They shrug off that weird gut feeling you gave them, the one that said, maybe don't mess with this one. But when things start to unfold exactly the way your energy quietly suggested they would, that's when it hits. You weren't just there. You knew. You weren't being standoffish. You were scanning, calculating, letting the situation unfold because you already saw how it would end. Now they're replaying every interaction with you like a scene in slow motion, trying to spot what they missed. Why didn't they take you more seriously? Why didn't they ask more questions? Why did they assume your silence meant nothing? And that's when they start studying you, not out of admiration, but out of regret. You become the mental disclaimer they can't unsee, the person who warned them without words, the vibe they brushed off that ended up being dead accurate. And that's the power you hold. You don't need to defend yourself or explain anything. You let people walk past the fine print if they want. You're not here to prove a point. But when it turns out you were the point, they feel the sting. They realize you were never mysterious. You were clear. They just weren't paying attention. And now they are, closely, because no one likes realizing they skipped the only sentence that mattered. And it had your name all over it. Number 7, you became the proof that energy doesn't lie. People do. You became the living, breathing proof that energy doesn't lie. People do. And not just once or twice, over and over. They laughed off your gut instincts, brushed them aside like they were just vibes or mood swings. But then the outcomes showed up like receipts with timestamps. Every red flag you sensed, it unraveled exactly how you said it would, even if you never said a word. And now people are starting to understand. You don't guess, you just read what's already there. You've shattered the illusion that people can hide behind charm, words, or rehearsed narratives. Because while others are getting swept up in how things look, you're tuned into how things feel. You catch the flicker in someone's eyes when they lie. You notice the pause before the fake laugh. You hear the difference between a confident tone and a compensating one. It's subtle, but it hits you like a neon sign. You don't need proof. You are the proof. That's what makes people nervous. They know that if something feels off, you'll pick it up before even they realize they slipped. You're not scanning for evidence, you're just wired to detect truth. And once they've seen you be right one too many times, they stop trying to convince you. They just get quiet. Because suddenly every weird glance, every change in pitch, every overly polished explanation, they know you caught it. Maybe you don't say anything, maybe you just nod, but that silence, that's what gets them. That's when they know you saw it. Now they think twice before pretending with you because they've realized you don't need to call anyone out to reveal them. You just exist with that quiet, consistent accuracy that makes people question if they're as subtle as they thought. And most of the time, they're not. You don't walk around accusing anyone, you don't need to. You simply let the energy speak first. And in a world full of people who lie to survive, you became the terrifying reminder that energy always tells the truth. Number 8, you walk into rooms and recalibrate the atmosphere. You walk into rooms and recalibrate the atmosphere, not with a word, not with a grand gesture, but simply by being there. It's like the moment you enter, people begin an internal audit, checking themselves in ways they never expected. Their posture shifts, their speech slows down, and suddenly they're aware of every word they're about to say. You didn't tell them to, you didn't even look at them, but the sheer force of your presence has them questioning if they've been authentic, if their actions are aligned with their intentions, if their words match their truth. It's not that you walk in and demand attention. You don't have to. The pull of your intuition does all the work. It's as if your mere energy cuts through the room like a silent radar, detecting the smallest nuances, subtle shifts in behavior, hidden insecurities, unspoken motives, and that energy gets felt. People don't want to be caught in their own missteps, so they start double-checking themselves, trying to make sure they're not about to be exposed. And you didn't say a word. The magic isn't in the questioning, it's in how your presence forces them to ask those questions. You don't intimidate with aggression or make anyone feel small, you just exist. And it's like the universe hits the reset button. Everyone starts recalibrating, adjusting their masks, trying to act in a way that feels worthy of someone who's clearly seeing beyond the surface. That's your power. You don't ask for answers, you make people search for their own. And the more you do this, the more others feel like they're walking on eggshells around you. Not because you expect perfection or judge them, but because your energy invites them to confront the part of themselves they'd rather leave unchecked. You don't have to poke, prod, or interrogate. Just being present, just existing in the space with your quiet, razor-sharp awareness has people rethinking every interaction. It's like they're aware that you see them. And suddenly they're wondering if they like what they're showing. Number 9, they've realized your silence isn't ignorance, it's surveillance. They've realized your silence isn't ignorance, it's surveillance. And that's when the unease sets in. At first they thought your quiet presence was just a lack of interest, an inability to read between the lines. But now they know better. You don't need to speak to absorb everything happening around you. In fact, your silence is the most unsettling part. Because while everyone else is distracted by their own noise, you're absorbing details they didn't even realize they were giving away. The unsettling truth, you don't need to ask questions to find the answers. You've decoded the unspoken, the body language, the fleeting glances, the nervous pauses, and now they're scared. They realize that every move they made to hide something, every subtle deflection, every controlled word, every manipulation they thought they got away with, was actually picked up by your radar. You don't even need to confront them about it. You don't need to call them out or point out what you noticed. The fact that you saw it at all is what messes with their minds. They were banking on you being clueless. They assumed you were just another passive observer, another face in the crowd, easy to deceive and easy to manipulate. But what they didn't account for was that your silence isn't empty. It's sharp, focused, and always watching. They thought they could pull the wool over your eyes, but instead you've turned their own tricks back on them with one simple truth: you know. And now they can't stop wondering just how much you really know. This is when the paranoia sets in. They can no longer be sure if their own actions are safe, if the mask is still working, if the story they're telling still holds up. And every time they catch a glimpse of you, your eyes not giving anything away, their mind races. Did she see through me? Does he know what I tried to hide? Because they know the truth now. You're not just passive, you're perceptive. Your intuition doesn't need loud declarations. It works in the shadows, picking up the pieces others thought they could carefully tuck away. And that, more than anything, is what terrifies them. Number 10, you're no longer guessing, you're just confirming. You're no longer guessing, you're just confirming. And that's what's really throwing people off. They used to think you were just another person trying to figure things out. Someone who needed to ask questions, get answers, search for clues. But now they realize you're not searching anymore. You've stopped asking because you already know. You're not probing for information. You're sitting back, observing and watching the truth unfold exactly as you knew it would. And that level of calm conviction, it messes with people. Those who thrive on deception can't handle it. They're used to manipulating the narrative, bending the truth to their will, pulling the wool over people's eyes. But here you are, unmoved, unshaken, not chasing answers, but waiting for the truth to reveal itself on its own. And it always does, doesn't it? They've realized that their web of lies and half-truths only tightens around them. Because every time they think they've covered their tracks, you're just there, quietly confirming what you already knew. It's not even about proving a point to them anymore. You don't need to. The fact that you don't need to do anything is what bothers them. You've moved beyond the need to confront. You've accepted that the truth has its own pace, and that your intuition is the lens through which you see it. They can try to shift, try to cover, try to deflect, but your unwavering certainty makes their attempts look more and more desperate. It's like watching a chess game unfold, knowing every move before it happens, yet refusing to jump in. You're letting them reveal their hand all on their own. What they fear most is how calmly you sit with it. The very absence of chaos around you, no wild gestures, no panicked rush to expose or manipulate, turns their efforts at deception into mere noise. And that's the unsettling part. They can't rattle you because you don't need their lies to validate your understanding, you see. And every time they try to play it off, they only prove you right, adding more pieces to the puzzle they're desperately trying to hide. Number 11, they're testing your intuition because their mask cracked and you saw their real face. They're testing your intuition because their mask cracked and you saw their real face. The facade they've carefully crafted, the layers of charm and calculated words suddenly aren't enough to shield them from your gaze. And now they're nervous. They need to know how much you really saw, how far your awareness goes, and if you've noticed the cracks they thought were hidden. So they bait, poke and prod, throwing out subtle hints, testing your reactions, hoping you'll slip up, reveal what you know, or at least give them the satisfaction of seeing you flinch. They're trying to gauge if you're bluffing, if you really have caught on, or if they can still control the narrative. They'll drop little bits of information to see if they can trigger a response, like throwing a stone into a calm pond and watching how you react to the ripple. Every word they speak is laced with doubt, a calculated move to see if you'll let them off the hook. And that's when it gets clear. They think you're guessing. They think maybe you're not as certain as you seem. They want to make you prove it, force you to call out their lies. Spoiler, you're not bluffing, you're not playing games. You've already made your assessment and you know exactly what's going on. Their attempts to push you into revealing your hand only confirm what you've known all along. They want you to show them how much you know because they can't handle the fact that you've seen through them without saying a word. You don't need to expose them. You don't need to play into their drama. The mere act of not reacting, not falling for their tricks is what drives them insane. And the more they prod, the clearer it becomes. The harder they try to manipulate the situation, the more they unravel themselves because you're not playing their game. You're watching them reveal themselves, one move at a time. They thought they could keep up the illusion, but now they're just scrambling to see if you'll call them out, but you won't. You already have. The truth is written all over their actions. Number 12, people feel undressed around you, fully clothed, yet emotionally naked. People feel undressed around you, fully clothed, yet emotionally naked. It's as if the moment you step into a room, something shifts. They can't hide behind their usual layers of small talk, false confidence, or well-rehearsed masks. Your intuition cuts straight through all of that, like peeling away layers of clothing to reveal their raw, unfiltered selves. And they can feel it. They feel exposed, like you've seen the very parts of them they've spent years protecting. This is why they act defensive, why they suddenly grow testy or distant. It's not because they dislike you, it's because they're scared. Terrified even. They know they're standing in front of someone who doesn't need to hear their rehearsed story or see their perfect facade to understand who they truly are. Your ability to see beyond the surface puts them on edge because they feel like you've uncovered the cracks in their armor. And when that happens, people can either try to reassert control, getting defensive or playing up their image even harder, or they'll shut down entirely, hoping you'll lose interest and stop peeling back the layers. It's not hate, it's fear. Fear of being seen for who they really are, not who they've spent so much time trying to convince others they are. They want to go back to feeling safe in their little world of pretense. But around you, that comfort is shattered. You don't need to ask probing questions or expose anyone's vulnerabilities. Your presence alone is enough to make them feel stripped of their protective layers. The best part is that you don't have to make a show of it. You don't call anyone out, you don't make them feel small, but you leave them feeling like they've been caught in a raw moment of truth, forced to confront the parts of themselves they've carefully hidden away. And in that discomfort, they act out. They get defensive, project frustration, or even try to dismiss you. But deep down, they know. You see them. And that's the part that terrifies them most. In the end, your intuition isn't just a skill, it's a power. The way you move through the world, unbothered, quietly observing and sensing what others miss, is something they can't replicate. You don't need loud declarations or dramatic reveals. You simply know, and that knowing is what unsettles people the most. They might try to hide behind masks, test your awareness, or convince themselves that you're just guessing. But they know the truth. You're not guessing, you're seeing. And it's that undeniable clarity that leaves them feeling exposed, unsure, and always on edge. They'll keep trying to read you, to throw you off, but in the end, it's your silence that speaks the loudest. Your power isn't in the words you say or the moves you make, it's in the fact that you know, and that makes you a force they can't control. So let them test, let them fear, because your intuition. It's always 2 steps ahead, and it's only a matter of time before the truth unfolds exactly as you foresaw. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the power of intuition, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on more insights that'll keep you ahead of the game. If this resonated with you, give it a like, drop a comment below. Let's hear your thoughts on how intuition has shaped your experiences, and share this with someone who needs to feel that quiet power in their own lives. Stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, the truth always finds its way to the surface. See you in the next video.